Hey, this is Marshall Allman. You're listening to the Dave and Creech Show. Better buckle up because it's going to be a rough and rowdy ride.
Dave did a bad thing. Creech did a bad thing too. Now they're here with Marshall Allman, talking eyes wide shut with you. You ever listened to a podcast and thought that they needed more Tom Cruise? You thought it liked some Kubrick and really didn't know what to do? Well, listen to this one.
Now here's your hosts, Dave and Creech.
Hey everybody out there, and welcome back to the Dave and Creech Show. This is episode 62. I am your host for right now, CJ Creech, and we will be joined in interview with my other co-host, Dave Sheridan, and of course, as mentioned in this horrible song that you had to hear me sing. Because yes, that is my voice, and that is why I don't sing, ladies and gentlemen. We will be joined by Marshall Allman, who you've probably seen on television in Prison Break or True Blood, maybe even in the theaters with the movie Hostage. Basically, Marshall's been on a lot of TV, but today is a little bit different. Normally, when we bring guests on, we discuss their career and whatever else they're willing and wanting to promote. However, this will be a little bit different, and we've had Marshall on before, so if you want to hear about some of his more notable past roles, make sure you check out one of the earlier Dave and Creeches. And this one is almost entirely devoted to his recut of the movie Eyes Wide Shut. So, fair warning, if you have not seen the movie or watched the recut, you definitely need to do one, or you're probably going to be lost. And by probably, I mean definitely lost. Now, this interview is going to be the majority of the show. However, I will take this time to address a couple of things. Obviously, we haven't released a podcast in about a month, and I know I don't technically owe anybody an explanation. I do want to give our listeners an explanation as to what's been going on. Normally, if we go without releasing episodes weekly, it's usually, usually Dave's working on a film, or, it's just we weren't able to get a hold of each other that week. But that hasn't been the case. I want to catch you guys up with what's been going on. And last month, near the end of March, one of my cousins died. His vehicle collided with a tractor trailer in North Carolina, and he passed away on site. He's left behind a family, his extended family, and obviously his father and mother and brothers and sisters are still in the process of grieving. And it's been kind of hard, guys, to be honest with you. I don't normally go into details, and I don't normally talk about myself. I know, Dave is the main anchor of the show, and you know a little bit about me. But my cousin Andy was, it sounds weird saying one of my favorite cousins, but he was one of the cousins I spent the most time with. I'll say it like that. Ever since I was a kid, every summer we'd go up to North Carolina, which is where a majority of my family is actually located. And we'd stay the summer. We'd go up for Christmas, certain holidays we'd go up. And 9 times out of 10, I'd always ask, because they lived basically across the street from my grandma, which is where we stayed. I would always ask to stay at his house because, my grandma back then had a TV with cable, and that was it. If I didn't bring toys, it was find something to do outside. I mean, she had a swimming pool, and she still does. So, it's not like there wasn't stuff to do, but, Andy had all of his toys, and he had, video games, and we'd stay up all night playing Sega Genesis and Road Rage or Road Rash, whichever one it is, and the Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. I could go on and on, but, mostly, but he was definitely one of the ones that facilitated my love for video games, which is still going to today. And, even when we weren't playing video games, it was always a blast. I mean, he had me convinced that there was dead people outside of the house at night, because just the way the lights hit the windows, it would look like bodies walking by. So he had me like terrified to even go outside of the hallway to look at the windows at night. But he was always funny. He was always warm, and he was genuine. And I could go on and on about stories of me and Andy and some of the troubles we got into and some of our misadventures, I guess you could say. But I just want to leave it at this. This podcast has been going on since 2015, 2016 maybe? I don't know. It's been a long time. And so far there's only been one podcast that's actually been dedicated in honor of somebody, and that was dedicated to one of our longtime listeners and friends of the show, Vernon Newton. And we are going to add another name to this because this podcast is dedicated to my cousin Andy. I don't want to leave you with a sadness, I hate to start off with something with sad news, but I mean, it is one of the reasons we've been gone. But there's also been some great moments that's happened over the past month. I got to take Lexi, my daughter, to her first wrestling event, WWE event, and she enjoyed it immensely. Celebrated Easter. Dave celebrated Easter, and we're gonna work on getting back on track. Is the best way to put it. And that starts this week, because as you're listening to this, there's actually another podcast coming out this week. It's going to be out Friday, because it's Friday the 13th. And while it's not going to really contain any new content, I mean, there'll be new intros and outros by me, possibly Dave. It's really just a Friday the 13th special, and we're going to have re-air interviews, like the one that you heard with Kane Hodder, which was actually fairly recent, and then one that we did with Shelley himself, Larry Zerner, from Friday the 13th Part 3. And it's just a little thing we're going to put together and put out for everybody this weekend. So, I mean, there's that to look forward to, and then we've got some other interviews I've got to get dates set up for. But Eric Jensen's coming back on the show. Now, Eric, I don't know if anybody knows. If you've been listening to the podcast long enough, you do. But Eric is my friend, and he's a tremendous actor. First off, you might have recently seen him on Law & Order SVU, but he's been on The Walking Dead, and he's currently on Mr. Robot, and it's just a lot of catching up to do. So that'll be coming soon. Dave's got a couple of friends that he wants to bring on, so we'll eventually get them on too. Now, before we start, guys, I do also want to touch on something else that you may have missed if you haven't been checking out our social media channels. And that's 1 week that we didn't do Dave and Creech. We actually were both on the same podcast. And it was the Rob and Slim Show. And, originally it wasn't supposed to be both of us on the show. At the same time, it was supposed to be us, me 1 week, Dave the other, but just scheduling snafus, like with us, it was on our end. And then we wound up getting scheduled actually on the same episode about an hour apart. And it's a really, really funny listen, guys. I highly suggest, if you have not already, definitely check out the show. It is the Rob and Slim Show. I mean, it's a hilarious show to begin with, or podcast, but definitely go through our Twitter feed at Dave and Creech, and you can check it out. It's also on YouTube. Dave has some choice words to say to hilarious effect, and I talk about how this started, because actually I still get emails, more like messages, of people asking, how did this start? So it was kind of nice to go back to basically telling how Dave and Creech actually came to be. Because, I mean, we've talked about it on the show once again, but I understand that if you're starting out with this podcast now, or even the last couple episodes, it's kind of hard to go back and listen to everything, because, I mean, at this point, there's so many episodes, and some of them are so super long that it's work. It would be very much so like work to try to go through all these. And case in point, I'm supposed to be putting together a reel for us, and that's taken way longer than it should, because once again, as I was saying, I mean, 60 plus episodes is just a lot. I mean, even if these were an hour long a piece, that's 60 hours, that's 3 days, but some of these, you know, Dave can talk. So we've got some 2 to 3 hour long podcasts, and yeah, they're very super long, and some, even the super short ones, you know, there's not too many of. It's a good listen. I mean, there's definitely certain episodes, if you were to ask me to listen to, what I would highly suggest. But yeah, so make sure, if you want to find out how Dave and Creech became Dave and Creech, check out the Rob and Slim Show. It's you know, I talk about it, Dave talks about it. We cover all the bases, and I actually promoted this show that you're listening to right now, this very episode, on there. Of course, well, it was a couple of weeks late to be released, but of course, you know, things happen that I've already talked about. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much sums up what Dave and Creech has been up to. Once again, if you have not seen Eyes Wide Shut or Eyes Wide Cut, you may want to pause this and go do that. You can go to his website, eyeswidecut.com, and watch it there. Watch the cut version. Once again, it's highly recommended that you watch this, because if you don't, you are going to be completely lost. And it's going to be a very long hour and a half for you. So yeah, guys, up next is our interview with Marshall Allman. Hope you enjoy. Well, welcome back, actually, Marshall. We had you on about a year ago. I believe it was for your web series. Is it Marriage in Short?
Yeah,
yes.
Is right.
Yeah, we had you on for that, and now a year later, maybe a year and some change, you're back, and you've got this new cut that you did of Stanley Kubrick's film Eyes Wide Shut, which is now appropriately titled Eyes Wide Cut. So welcome back on the show.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here with you guys.
Let's try to take this all the way back. Let's start with just Stanley Kubrick. You, are you a Kubrick fan or something? What's going on here?
I've always been a Kubrick fan, and even more of the idea or the myth of Kubrick, because I've long been an obsessive type, even dating back to before I got into acting or filmmaking or anything of the like. I very much just did art, drawing, painting, every discipline I could get my hands on. I mean, I was the kid that would skip class in school to go and do art. So that's always been a part of kind of my framework. So when I got into...
Can I stop you there? What if the class was art class? What if you were in art class? Did you skip it then and do art, even though it was an art class?
That would be a very meta thing for me to do, but if I skipped art to go do art, that would be really ironic if I skipped art class to go film an art class, and I was actually doing art within that art class, if you wanted to get with the little Russian doll kind of theme there, or the Land O'Lakes butter. Yeah, so that's just always been kind of my nature. Like, so finding out that there was this filmmaker that was sort of had this legendary perfectionism or obsessiveness really drew me to him. So I was actually drawn in by the persona first, and then obviously, then it was like, oh wait, he did that film. Oh, he did that film. Oh, okay, and then it was, as I became a professional actor and then a filmmaker, I started to actually study his works and find out more about him and the films that he's made. So that's kind of what drew me to Kubrick in the first place. And it was very comforting for me to find that, that my kind of obsessive tendencies were, I wasn't alone in that. And then, I was in London shooting season 2 of Humans, and I found myself with some downtime. And as you know, Marriage is Short. It's kind of like my examination of marriage. And so I was doing some research on that because I was writing the second part in my downtime. And when you kind of start studying marriage on film, Eyes Wide Shut comes front and center, and so I rewatched it.
Marriage, the short. You mentioned there was a part 2 you were working on, which I would say part 2 of Marriage is divorce, but I'm just kidding. But how many of those did you do is what I'm saying?
I've done one, and that one took me quite a long time. But the basic premise is I'm taking the same actors, playing different couples in different decades, dealing with different issues within marriage. And so the first one is set in 1962 with a couple dealing with infertility. And so the next one that I'm writing is set in 2024, and it's about a couple who are doomsday preppers, and they're both grappling with their version of the end of the world, but from completely different worldviews. He's an atheist who's, believes that either A, we're going to screw up the environment ourselves and ruin humankind ourselves, or there's going to be some sort of cataclysmic event that we didn't prepare for. And obviously she is I guess you would say she's kind of a religious nut in a way, or a down the line Christian who believes in the tribulation and Book of Revelation and all that. And she also happens to be quite the gun collector.
It's anthology. It's like an anthology, so to speak.
Yes, exactly.
Slices of marriage. There's marriage involved, but they're really short stories of anything in life, right?
Yeah.
What's your quintessential favorite Kubrick movie you've seen? I assume you've seen a few of them.
Yeah. Obviously, it's really boring, but it's Eyes Wide Shut.
Okay.
And the truthful answer is that's my favorite one because I relate to it the most. I think it's its most, I think it's his most relatable film. My second favorite would be Dr. Strangelove.
Okay. I've seen Dr. Strangelove once, and now I've seen Eyes Wide Shut and Cut 1.5 times because I got halfway through Eyes Wide Shut, and I felt asleep. And then when I found out you made it shorter, well, I watched it, and I think I skipped through a couple scenes just because we were on just to stay on target to get a hold of do this phone call. So I do have some questions about that, but let me see. I like The Shining personally is mine, but I guess that's pretty cliche. But I'm not a really big horror fan, and that's the only horror movie that I've seen more than once. So
I would agree, man. I really do love The Shining, and that would be the one that in my mind I was like, it's a toss up. But then then it's hard to not mention 2001 with that. So it's like,
yeah. In
the list of viewings for me, it's like Eyes Wide Shut, Strangelove, and then it's Shining in 2001 tied for third.
Yeah, 2001's really good, and I don't know of any of. This thing, I'm not saying I'm not a fan of this. There's Clockwork Orange, right?
Right, Clockwork Orange.
Okay, I like that.
Lolita, Killing.
That's the thing is I'm not up on all his films. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I applaud you for your honesty because there's it's really refreshing to hear you speak candidly about it because so many people in the film world sort of feel like they have to posture when it comes to Kubrick because if you haven't seen it or if you're not a Kubrick, expert, then somehow it makes you less than of a film expert,
Yeah. To me, and that's the problem. I also watch films and I forget them. I usually fall asleep in them, and I usually forget them very quickly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I see 2-3 movies a year. So just to set up what I'm about. But I like movies. I like breaking them down. I like watching them. But I think the other thing about The Shining is I'm a huge Jack Nicholson fan. You know what I mean?
I agree, man. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Jeez.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So, okay. So, what made you Now we're going to go to Eyes Wide Cut and Eyes Wide Shut.
All right.
Just to set that up, so there's a website. What is the website?
EyesWideCut.com.
Pretty simple. And that's where people can go see your cut of the movie, right?
Correct. Yes.
Is it available anywhere else but on that website? I mean, is that website?
No.
There's a link to YouTube though, right? Couldn't you, or do YouTube?
No, it's a private embedded video. So I mean, I guess there's smarter people than I that could definitely crack out how to figure it out and maybe put it on torrent or anything like that. But I specifically designed it to only watch there because of fair use. Yeah, exactly. Like it needs to be in a context of criticism, education, in conversation, essentially.
Basically, what Marshall did. How many minutes did you cut out of Eyes Wide Shut?
In total, it was. I'm off the top of my head. I'd have to look right now, but I'm pretty sure it was 18 cuts that I made, totaling in 40 minutes.
40 minutes you took out, right?
Yeah. And
then at the beginning it says there's a 1973 law or something like that, fair use, something. So explain that a little bit more about how you're able to do this and then put it on the website. You're not. Yeah, I mean, profit. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's basically the fair use clause, and it says that you can reuse copyrighted materials for the purpose of commentary, criticism, and education. Some of the common things that are triggered when you use fair use is that it would somehow affect the market of the original, whether you're doing it for profit or anything. So I took as many measures as possible to fall under the Fair Use Act, so that this wouldn't be something that was taking away from Eyes Wide Shut or the market of it, but that it would bolster it, almost essentially as an elaborate advertisement to help generate conversation, to help educate people about editing and story structure and what can be done in editing, the power of editing. So I was very careful to make sure that it's postured in such a way that, because I wouldn't want to negatively affect the Kubrick estate, let alone Warner Brothers, but I wouldn't want it to be something that was like a nuisance. I wanted to engender conversation, and to be honest with you, there's so many people that if you go online and look at negative reactions to Eyes Wide Shut, there's a lot. And that's something that sometimes Kubrick fans can get a little myopic, is that Eyes Wide Shut, there's a lot of people that don't like that film and dismissed it completely for a lot of reasons. And so,
give me some top reasons why people didn't like that film.
Oh gosh, it's too slow, the pace, it was confusing, didn't know what it was about, I fell asleep. Even my neighbor was like, oh, I remember that movie, I saw it in theaters in '99, it was the only movie I've ever walked out of. It was supposed to be sexy, but it ended up being creepy. It was stupid, he just, the whole thing was just because he was jealous that his wife might sleep with him. It goes down the line.
Okay, and I could see why when that movie came out, you're probably too young to remember, but it was really marketed off of the sexiness of Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, and they really did market it as sort of almost like that, what's that movie that's out now that they're on the third one on Grey?
50 Shades.
Yeah. 50 Shades, yeah.
They made it seem like it was more like this kind of taboo married couple. They both go to these swinger things and do stuff. That's the way that I remember the cut. So he probably wasn't very happy with that being that versus it being this kind of.
Well, yeah, there's arguments about that because I'm a little bit fuzzy, but I mean, Kubrick was always very meticulous about the way his films were released, the marketing of it, the poster, even down to he would measure out the size of the ad in the newspapers to make sure that they weren't getting ripped off by the advertisers and all these people too. I can't remember if Kubrick cut the trailer himself. I'm pretty sure that he did for Eyes Wide Shut. So, but I haven't done enough deep dive research on. But there was a whole mess about whether it was marketed properly and whether that was what Kubrick intended for it, the way he intended it to be marketed. But yeah, there was definitely some kind of misdirect there that I think didn't set the film up to be received in a way that would have been understood or been more clear.
I was like only 12 or 13 myself when that came out, and I remember the commercials pretty well. It made me interested in wanting to see the movie at that age. I remember they used a "Did a Bad Thing" song. Can't remember the actual lyric of it, but yeah, it seemed like they were definitely going about this whole swingers theme, and I was like, "Ew, I want to see that." And of course, my mom was like, "Nope." I had to wind up eventually trying to see it from like a friend who had it on VHS.
I think what did it was the song "Did a Bad Thing," and it had this kind of like pace to it, and so in fact I recut the original trailer as an homage to the original trailer. And in cutting it, I was like, wow, this is a very fast-paced, very moving thing. But if you watch the original trailer that was cut, like, it's there. It's just the music and the pacing and the editing is what made it, is kind of what belied what it really was. Because then when you get in the film, there's this very deliberate pace where the dialogue is slow and the music is pointed and everything is lulling you into this sort of like dreamlike state. But you have this trailer that like gets your pulse moving. So very interesting.
Exactly.
So, in a Cliff Note kind of way, what's the movie about? That's so funny. Like, I mean, if I had to do it, I would say it's about a married couple that are dealing with sexual jealousy, or and right away when I say that, it's like, okay, it sounds like, even hearing myself say that, I'm like, it sounds so idiotic. It's so simplistic. I was actually just reading there's an interview in the 80s with the Rolling Stone that Kubrick did, where he talked about this exact conversation was what he feared the most, was because he was horrible at giving the 5-sentence summation of the concept of the film or the meaning of the film. In fact, he hated interpreting his own films. But yeah, for the sake of simplicity and clarity, to me, it's about a married couple dealing with, I guess you would call it sexual frustration. I mean, at its most basic. That's what I would say is dealing with. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you seen the film, like the regular cut? How many times did you see the film?
Oh gosh, at this point, I would say close to like 30 times.
30 times. And then when you're editing it, or is that what you're talking about? Because are you adding in the fact that you edited the thing? Are you adding that in, or you watch it 30 times? Like, oh, I'm not editing.
Yeah, that's what I would. So the interesting thing about it is that's where it gets into the discussion of the nature of editing and filmmaking and how you perceive it. Like, do I need to intellectually ascertain the film to edit it? And in fact, I don't. Like, so much of editing is an instinctual art form. Most editors worth their salt. Like, when you talk to them, there's a certain pocket or there's a zone where you're editing, where you're not thinking and you're not fully feeling. You're just kind of one with the film, and you have a vision, and you start carving that vision out, and it's like a path opens up before you, and it's a very transcendent process. I mean, when I get into it, 12 hours can go by in editing, and I haven't even eaten. I couldn't even remember the last time I went to the restroom. And that's essentially what happened. Is that when I saw Eyes Wide Shut again for the first time in a long time, and I found this article that was like proposed that, because he died before the film was released, and that he had this penchant for editing his films after they were in theaters, that maybe Eyes Wide Shut wasn't finished. And that was the only spark I needed. And I was like, oh, of course. And I immediately started taking the necessary steps to cut it. And it was like a fugue state that I went into. And by the time I was done, I was so shocked at what had sort of felt like revealed itself to me that I was so uncertain that I was like, gosh, how could this make sense? How could I have just done this in a sense? And I tried to show it to some friends of mine, and none of them, they were all like, yeah, I'll watch it. And it was like crickets, and so I sat on it for a long time. And then when it came back around, one of my friends was like, yeah, hey, I'm ready to watch. It was like, 10 months later. I was like, what am I doing with this? And then by happenstance, I got in touch with no film school. This guy named Justin at no film school, and he was like, I want to write an article about it. You've got to release it publicly. And then once I was sort of prompted to do that, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to like go back and make sure, like, did I ruin this film? And then this pressure came on me to like start to understand what exactly I had done. And so it's a very interesting thing to some people to learn that, like, I didn't necessarily cut it from a film professor's perspective. You know, I cut it from an instinctual place of, yeah. So it was kind of, that's a kind of a roundabout way of saying, like, I watched the film 30 times now because in going back to kind of figure out the edit that I made, it was like I had to then double check my edits and go, does this serve and honor the original intent? And that was the part that was intellectual for me, was reassessing my cuts and what I had done originally to make sure that I was keeping the essence of the film and the intention of Kubrick. And then it was sort of going back and rewatching the original and reading about it and learning about it and going, okay. And then there were things that I'd cut that I was like, no, I better change that. That needs to go back in. This pace needs to be here. And so that's when I started to, like, kind of intellectually evaluate what I had done.
So you saw it 30 times. I saw it one time just now. So it's like, but I do have some questions, okay? And I've got it down, like, when I was just watching it very quickly. And I'm sure if I go back and watch and whatnot, and this isn't like, hey, in this part here, and this guy did this, and he said this. There's a lot of stuff I saw just on the first one, but this is more like, I don't know, because I only watched half. The first time I watched that film, it was like 1 a.m, and I fell asleep, and I fell asleep right when, you know, the girl left to go redeem herself for him. You know what I mean? At the party. And so, and then I was like, I gotta go to bed. I was already falling asleep. So I turned it off, and then it was like, well, let me just watch his. So I watched yours. So I don't know. Honestly, I've never seen the other, the what I call the extended version now. At this point, the extended version.
Right.
So I don't know if I got some questions here because I did cut that out, and that's what I want you to go. If I say,
no, this is actually really
I want you to say, you know what, I cut that out. And then maybe I shouldn't have cut it out because Dave got confused.
No, that's great. That's kind of like in the back of my mind. I'm like, I'm kind of hoping for that experience for some people because I want Eyes Like Cut to be able to stand on its own.
Okay, so let me ask you. Now these aren't in order because I was working on a tiny little note thing, and then I had to transfer it to a bigger copy. But I think I can go. Now, first of all, from what I remember about the beginning, a big chunk of it was just the beginning. It gets to that party almost immediately. And wasn't there a little bit more setup at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah. What did you feel was missing?
No, nothing. I'm just trying to.
There was basically they get ready. They get nice to the nanny of their daughter. They go to this swanky party. They meet the host of the party and his wife. They have a brief conversation. They go to dance. Tom Cruise recognizes his friend Nick is on the piano.
So
yes,
he meets Sidney Pollack. He meets Sidney Pollack before, right? Before.
Yes. Going up to the room.
The OD thing. Does he meet Nick? Does he meet Nick Nightingale at that party? When did you run into Nick Nightingale before?
So him and Bill and his wife Alice are dancing, and then the song kind of finishes, and then he notices he's like, oh my gosh, that's Nick from college. You know,
so Nick's playing. Nick is playing there.
Yes, correct.
That part. Got it. See, that's none of that's in the new cut, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I'm just confused because I like I said, I only saw the other one time, and I was trying to catch up to what was I missing. Okay. I mean, obviously it's important to set the characters up. Probably Nick more than Sidney Pollack thing, but they both obviously have some. They're all tied in to the other thing. It's clear. You know what I mean? Clearly, right. I'm pretty sure the main guy in the red is the guy she's dancing with. I'm pretty sure that's the same actor.
Very interesting connection.
But I mean, I don't know. What do the credits say? Because I didn't read the credits.
Well, okay, so there's a couple theories about that, but I think it was not the same actor that played him. But there are some theories that he was originally intended to play that, and then Kubrick changed it. Or I've even heard some people say, "Oh, it was the same actor, but he changed his voice." But I don't think that's the case.
I thought the voice sounded the same. It had a little bit of a different accent, but it sounded like it was the same.
Well, no, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get this wrong. No, the guy, the voice in the party is British, and the guy that at the dancing with Alice is, his name is Xander, and I don't know where he's from, but he's not British.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I thought
don't want to guess.
Sounded the same.
I want to say he's Austrian, but then I might be conflating the original novel because it was set in Austria.
The voice sounded the same, not the accent. I just thought the voice sounded the same. But anyway, okay, let's back it up now. The first thing is when she's dancing with that guy, and I think it's the second shot of dancing. Did you reverse the shot, or was the shot already reversed?
I reversed the shot because I had to cut from them flirting together at the table, and I jump cut to them dancing, and so I had to flip the shot horizontally so that it wouldn't be too jarring of a cut because Alice was on the other side, and it was too much. It was too hard.
Got it. No, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't.
That's really interesting that you noticed that. How did you? You're the first person that noticed that. Very astute. Because one of the only ways you could notice that, other than it being flipped, is that her wedding ring is on her right hand.
Yeah, the two things: the wedding ring, the flower, and his hair part. You know, those are the things that exactly. So I thought that, I didn't know if that was already in Kubrick's thing or if that was an issue you were dealing with, like with the 180 degree.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by your eye there.
Okay, so because I thought that was sort of if he did it, that it was symbolic of she's not being herself, or she's being the two different splits there of here she's kind of flirting with him, you know what I mean? And then when she's back to when it doesn't flip, then she's kind of fighting it, going, no, I got to go. Where's my?
That is very interesting that you have that reaction, because that's something that I believe is commonplace in Kubrick. In the audience, in Kubrick's audience, is that because he was so detail-oriented and because he was so into semiotics, that things he did on accident were ascribed meaning later by audiences that Kubrick never intended, such as I was just reading about, and if you read that Rolling Stone interview from the 80s, the monolith that accidentally appeared in Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, God.
That they were shooting, and there was this rubble that they shot in the area that they really tore down. It was real rubble that they created for the set. They were allowed to just tear down this whole area, buildings and everything, with a wrecking ball. And it so happened that this scene they were shooting, there happened to be a black monolith there on the set. Like, it was totally unintended. And even the interviewer was like, you're never going to get away with that. He laughed. He's like, yeah, I know, but it's just coincidence. And so it's so funny that
was more. So you're saying he was aware of it, but he was just, it's a happy accident. Let's shoot it. That's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was aware of that one that happened, but constantly
didn't have somebody
Kubrick's interviews, he dismisses so many. Yeah, exactly. Kubrick is always dismissing so much credit that he receives that he didn't intend for. It's so funny, and so it's not discounting that he was a genius, but I just think that when you're working on that level, I think that's when you start to see the accidents fall in your favor, in a sense, when you are on that level,
Okay, so, again, I'm just going to go through these things, all right? They might not be in order of everything. But
no, go ahead.
Now, here's the thing. This could just be the DP, the lighting guy, because there are a lot of lights in this movie. If there's a light in the scene, it's on. You know what I mean? Nobody has every lamp and every light on in their house, in their thing, right? And I'm going to go back and look. I'll give you a case in point. The kitchen, okay? They've got the hood range light is on. But the one that really throws me off, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Nobody has that light on, is the ice maker light on the fridge. Is on both times, every time they're inside. And I'm like, nobody puts their ice maker light on. Nobody. That's like,
It's so
Most
funny.
people don't even know. Most people don't even know where to put that light on in the first place. You know. You wouldn't need
Mine,
to
I mean, to their credit, I think my fridge is maybe not from the 90s, but mine stays on all the time.
I think you could shut it off. It would annoy me.
Yeah, you're right. You can shut it off, but I know how to do that, and that would define that theory.
Yeah,
so
it's
funny.
weird that.
Well, I mean, then you would argue like, oh, well, that's his influence, obviously, from Barry Lyndon, where he like lit the whole movie with candlelight, you know.
Right.
And the Christmas lights were a nod to Barry Lyndon, you know, and I don't know how much of it he was like, I want to do Christmas lights because that's a theme in my career of having as many lights as possible and doing sort of ambiance. Yeah.
Right. Well, we can talk about the Christmas lights in a minute. How many scenes did you move? Like, which scenes did you move around?
I only rearranged one scene.
What was it?
It's an exterior shot of Bill walking through the city. It was originally after he called after everything's happened with the party, and it's the next day, and he calls her name is blanking me now, but the woman whose father died. Right, he calls her, and then she doesn't answer, and so he goes walking. And it's a transition shot that he ends up walking to the hooker's house, which, gosh, I'm blanking on all this right now. And the detail.
Shaw?
Yes, correct.
Exactly. Yep.
Dominoes. And then he finds out that she's not there. So, yeah, I moved that later because I had to cut the Ziegler scene around the pool table. And I needed a transition there. So it needed a moment after he goes to the morgue, before he goes home, that we needed to feel the weight of that moment, that transition, that walk home. And that shot works so perfectly. It's the most oddly framed. I mean, Kubrick was obsessed with framing, so that shot is so weird. And he comes walking up and, like, not even in his perfectly, sacred geometry, like, third part of the screen, comes up in the oddest part of the screen, and he stays so far to the right of the film, and it's so isolated and alone. And that visually, that's one of the weakest spots for the eye, the bottom right corner and the bottom left corner of the film. Those are like the weakest parts of the frame. So it's just this very haunting, odd shot, and I thought it just worked so perfectly as the transition that I needed there.
Okay, so because I was wondering when Nick in the party scene, the guy comes and says, "Hey, your taxi driver is out front. He wants to talk to you." And they're leading Bill. That's his name, right?
Right.
They lead him down, and then it cuts to Nick, who's blindfolded. Nick Nightingale, and they're leading him through this wall thing where there's a dressed person and a naked person, right? And obviously that's the stance of, are you sexual or are you not sexual? You know what I'm saying? Like, there wasn't two dressed people dancing together, and there wasn't two naked people. It was all one dressed person, one naked person. So he's getting led. Now, in your opinion is he getting led out of the party? Like, you're done, dude. Like, you've been busted. We already know. Or is he being led to that other room where he's now playing the piano when Bill is like, they're like surrounding him saying, take off the mask. Take off. Is Nick playing the piano there? Or
yes,
Nick already left?
Nick is playing the piano. No, the Nick is playing the piano there.
That's hilarious, right?
Right. Because at that point, they don't know why. They don't know. Well, I guess maybe they do know, because obviously they had a special password for Nick so that they would know where he got his password from.
Like the moment he said Fidelio, well, they go, well, that's the piano player, or that's whoever,
right. Someone knows that. Yeah, I don't know how many people at that party would know that. Maybe just a few of the top people,
Right. But, okay, so you think when they're leading Nick blindfolded through the wall, because it's before that scene, that they're not like, okay, you're busted. We know because we're bringing this guy down. He's already busted before they even ask him what's the password. They know who the fuck is this? You know what I mean?
Right.
They know he's an outsider. But you don't think that they're already leading him out. You do think that The piano that's being played is being played live. It's not like a score, right? You know what I'm saying? It's
Are you talking about the one where it's like the prayer that's kind of reversed?
No, obviously he's playing there. I'm talking when they surround him and he's got to get the password. They already showed Nick.
That's actually something I've never even. That thought you're having is one that I haven't thought of. You're actually making me want to go back and watch the scene and really break down the point that you're making here.
I don't think Nick's playing the piano there. I think he's being led away already. He's already basically been outed, and they're like taking him away.
Right. Yeah. That's your theory, is that he's already been outed there.
Yeah, because I don't think even Kubrick is that. He's not Mel Brooks. Where, I mean, it cracks me up that I think Nick is playing piano for the whole movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like off the side, blindfold. Because if all of a sudden he's playing piano there for them, the deli knows, right? And if he hears it's Tom Cruise's voice, and he hears them say, and they're saying, take off your mask, take off your clothes, and the lady's like, stop, I'll redeem myself, and he's scoring it. You think right. You think he'd be like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, oh
yeah, dude. Like the fact that he can keep playing. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, there's never once like a hiccup, like, oh shit, that fucking
God,
Tom.
I've never had that. I've never even really thought about that. I've never had that. So I've actually pulled it back up on my computer and I'm watching it right now. I'm gonna go to that spot because I want to see exactly what you're talking about. Because dude, I love your brain, man. I love the way you think. Could have used you as my right hand man when I was doing this whole thing. It would have been.
I hope your right hand was using the mouse or a roller pad, not somewhere else. I mean, 50 Shades of Mason.
50 Shades of editing.
Yeah. So you're watching it right now? I mean, can we?
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. So they're leading. Yeah. Obviously, they're leading Nick back. Yeah. And that's. Right. I mean, that's it. That's what they're doing, man. They know. They know that he. Yeah. I mean, I knew they were leading Nick there, but I'm watching to see what. Yeah. Where did they take him? Because there's also a guy on Twitter that just proposed a theory that there was a shot they cut out of walking Tom Cruise by like the occult sacrificial room. Right. There's no real evidence that would have been cut from the film. But it's a really interesting theory that they would walk him by the room where someone would be sacrificed as almost so we could see how serious it was because of something happened. No, right. Nick playing the piano in the scene where Cruz is getting called out, where Hartford's getting called out. Yeah, exactly. All right, so but that would be funny if they made him play as almost like the procession to his own funeral. Essentially, that's actually pretty funny. What's funny is that he was originally going to make Eyes Wide Shut comedic, and he was going to cast Steve Martin in it. That was like a real thing. Yeah, that Jan Harlan, his longtime producer, talked about. That they originally were going to make it this kind of comedic and serious romp with Steve Martin. Right. Well, yeah, like a throwback to the 70s, like Tom, Dick, and Alice or whatever. Like one of these, like MASH was the MASH movie was a comedy but serious. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. Or whatever. Parenthood. That's another one of Steve Martin. It wasn't going to be The Man with Two Brains. It was going to be a slice of life, but also that Billy Crystal City Slickers. You know what I mean? Like keeping it real, but like true stuff coming out. You know what I mean? Yeah, it would have been really interesting to see that version because Kubrick obviously has such a wicked sense of humor. It would have been actually pretty interesting. Now let me ask you a question there too. When the two models at the first party were going to go take him and probably, goof off with him at the first party, basically they said, he's like, where are we going to go? And they said, to the end of the rainbow. Right. Mm-hmm. And then when he goes and rents the costume, it's called the Rainbow. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is that all about? What's your thoughts on it? Oh, there's a lot of theories on that. to me, it's like that the whole idea is, because then when you say, like, then you connect it to at the end of the film when he turns off the Christmas lights, the rainbow-colored Christmas lights, that this sort of, he went from eyes wide shut to eyes wide open, and that they were proposing the end of the rainbow as being this sort of like sexual amazing land. Because if you notice in the orgy party, there's no multicolored Christmas lights. You know, that's where the rainbow ends. That's where all the Christmas lights end. That's where Christmas ends. That's where the fantasy ends. You know, that's the reality or whatever. But in fact, what we find is the opposite. That party led for him to be. It wasn't the end. You know, the end was when he realized what sort of a spell he had been under.
Yeah, if that guy didn't interject, well, he could go do something with those.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you see a slight bit of hesitation, and he's like, wait, lady. He's like, where are we going? You know? And then it's that same thing he does in every moment. He does it with Mandy. He does it with Domino, you know, that it's like, oh, I'm right there. Because she's like, do you have to go? You know, are you sure? And he's like,
now, let me ask you a question. Going back to the original setup of this movie, since we jump right in the thing, was this like the first time that him and his wife were invited to Ziegler's, like one of these parties? Was this a big, like, let's not blow this, honey, let's go to this party tonight? Like, what was the party?
I think that they go to Ziegler's parties often, you know, because later the next day they're like, oh, we have to write a thank you note to the Zieglers for inviting us to the party, and he's like, I already took care of that. So it definitely felt routine to me. It felt like
but when he said he took care of it, you know, the thank you that he took care of was he saved that chick's life, and then he said, "Oh, guy, I wouldn't." That was what he intended.
Well, no, he's not talking about the orgy there. Oh yeah, yes, I get what you're saying. Yes, exactly. That would be.
We got to make sure we call.
He's got a doctor's office. I'm sure somebody took care of it. Yeah, but I actually think that he had someone at his doctor's office probably write a note. That's what I was thinking.
No, I don't think so. No, I think that
I mean, yeah, you're exactly right. No, that's exactly a good point.
We don't need, what he's saying is there's no need to thank him. He's got to thank me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
equally valid point. Yeah, I think so. Either that or he would write a note to take care of the wife so the wife wouldn't think anything was up, you know, that they wrote because his wife obviously doesn't know that she was upstairs in that room. I mean, geez.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that was the idea, is that there was this growing, you know, they have a daughter, they're in this marriage, they're wealthy, he works all the time, and you can tell that he gets so much validation from his work of, you know, and, you know, he's got this gorgeous wife at home that's ignored. So, yeah, like seeing them with other people, that's sort of the idea, is it stimulated this jealousy, you know. And he was sort of, that was the catalyst. And I think that was growing, obviously, because she had already been fantasizing about the naval officer. You know, it's that chasm in marriage where you're so close but you're so far. You know, it's what Xander says at the beginning. The funny thing about marriage is that it forces, if what does he say? How does he exactly say it? It makes deception a necessity for both parties.
Right.
Which is, in a sense, is really intense, because in a marriage, it's like you want to be fully honest, you know, and there are things that you're like, oh, I know I should say this, but I need to say it in a way that's not going to hurt. Like, how do you handle the truth in a marriage, and how do you handle, like what you talked about earlier, the carnal nature? You know, do you tell your spouse every carnal thought you've ever had, or every indecent thought you've ever had, or every non-monogamous thought you've ever had? Or, you know, that's a really intense way to go about it, you know?
There was one other question. Okay, the mask. So the mask, obviously, now I don't know if I'm missing something, because it was like, oh, when he goes to return the mask, when he goes back to Rainbow and he returns the outfit, the mask is missing. Then he gets home, and she's asleep, and the mask is on the pillow. Okay?
Right.
And so just explain all that. Was there stuff cut out that I didn't? Is there some missing piece?
The only thing that I cut out there was he had a foreshadowing shot where he showed Bill comes home and he shows the mask next to Alice, and then he walks Bill through, the kitchen and turns off the Christmas tree, and then he walks into the bedroom, and then he sees the mask. So you see the mask before Bill does. I cut the shot right before. Yeah, it was for me, it was kind of like he wanted to foreshadow it or create some dramatic irony there, but it sort of always. I thought for me, the fact that the theme and the score comes back when he comes home, when you think the journey's done, that creates foreshadowing for me that something else was amiss, or something that was.
Yeah, I think if you saw her with the mask, you might think like, oh, like there's people in there that killed them or something. I don't know. But my question is then.
Yeah.
Well, where did the fucking mask go? Where did the mask come from?
Obviously, I think the simple answer is that, Alex found it and put it on her bed, but then it's like, well, did the guys that are following get in? So what I like, the answer that I like that creeps me out is that, they came into his home and had found the mask and put it there, but obviously that morning he had grabbed it to return it. So when did they come in? They came and got the mask out and then separated the mask somewhere else, and then Bill took it back, and then
well, that's my question. Did you see? Is there a shot that he does confirm that he's got the mask and that stuff in a bag?
Yeah, I went back and checked. Like, he left the party with it, So I'm confident that Bill had it when he got home,
Okay. What was the shot?
You technically never see it. You never see it technically Bill leaving with it because you don't see him leave the party,
No, but do you see him come home with a rainbow bag? I'm saying, like...
Yeah, you see him come home with the bag. He comes home with the bag, and he puts it in his little dresser, and then he comes to bed, and Alice talks about the further dream she had this time, with everyone fucking her now.
She wakes. So,
and then the next day he goes back to work, and then he can't shake it, so he's got to try, and then he tries to return it the next day at work, and then it's missing. So you're like, at what point did Alice? She must have because Bill left for work early, so technically, yeah, you're like,
maybe,
did he leave?
Maybe
the
he went in the shower. He might have went in the shower and she got it. No, but what I'm saying was, I was fast forwarding. That's probably a part that I fast forward where he was on the bed. And she wakes up, or he wakes her up on the bed, or whatever it is. So I guess I didn't see him come home and put the bag in the dresser. So I do think that she found it. I think it was intimated that she found it because when she wakes up and he's crying, if she saw a freaking mask like that on the pillow, she'd be like, wow, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's a very good point. Yeah. It's a very good point. But it raises that question of when did she get it out? When did she grab the mask out of the stuff? Bill took it with him to work, right? He didn't go back home and get the mask, and then, he had to leave for work early, so that meant that she would have gotten up first, and maybe while I was making breakfast for the daughter, and
or he jumped in the shower or something like that. She was going through his stuff. Who knows? I guess the idea that
it's one of those parts where I feel like it's a little bit of a cheat, and it makes me want to go back and reread the original script. I don't even think it's
it. When the Hungarian guy or Australian guy goes to make the art of deception a necessity for both parties, and then the reveal is there is no deception in a true union of marriage, meaning she knew already, regardless. As soon as when she called him,
she knew what was up. Yeah, she's up smoking.
She knew where he was, right? When he comes home, she knew where he was. You know what I'm saying? She knew he wasn't at that dead person's house anymore when she called the first time. Hey, just calling, checking in on you. It already knew, hey, that's too odd of a coincidence. So, what she's saying is that whole women's intuition thing or whatever. It's there is no secret, even though the art of deception is something that becomes a necessity of married couples. There is no secret in that sense.
Right.
So, I would say, here's my thing. I didn't like the movie, okay, but it's not my life. It's not my life. This is not my life. Here's the one thing I would say. This guy was walking through a hustler magazine life. You know what I mean? He was in the most sexualized life that anybody, you know, he went to that one party, and it's like 2 models want to take him down the thing. Then he goes up, and it's a naked chick, and she's freaking whatever. And then, you know, he's walking the streets, and just a hooker just comes up and talks to him and takes him like, oh, we're only a block from my house. You know, like, let's go into this thing. And then the gay guy, they go to the Rainbow, you know, like, okay, how can they fucking sexualize the costume shop? Next thing you know, there's 2 Asian guys banging the guy's daughter. It's like the whole thing is like crazy. You know, it's like, well, like, I would stop right there and said, what the fuck? You have no idea of the week I'm having. I got a dead hook. I got a hooker, models that want to bang me, a naked chick ODing, Asian guys banging a daughter, like underage. The waitress at the thing's kind of hitting on me. Alan Cummings, the gay guys all over me. Like, everyone wants to bang. It should have been everyone wants to bang Tom Cruise is what the movie is. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very highly sexualized movie. That is not. Okay, I get it. Hey, guess what? Try being monogamous if you're walking that fucking world. Yeah, absolutely not. But, dude, I don't see any of that. I drive a Prius, and I've been married for fucking 17 years. I've been with my wife since 1987. And, you know, the closest thing I get to other women is at a Little League game, and they're all bundled up in snuggies because it's cold out at night, you know? So, I mean, you know, like, and I'm an actor. I'm a decent-looking guy, and I act in movies. And I've never once had any of those things happen to me. That guy had it all happen in one movie, you know. But I get it. It's a highly charged movie. That was my only thing. It wasn't grounded in. You know, it was a cool movie, but it wasn't grounded in what I would say I can relate to. When you're saying every married couple can relate with a monogamy thing. But I don't think I don't know a lot of people that have one of those, like, you can't check off the box of all those things going like, that's kind of typical. A lot of guys go in and there's Asian dudes.
No, honestly, that's the whole point is that it is a dream. Like, I mean, it's based on a book called, like, a dream story, a dream novel, you know?
Yeah. My other thing is this. They're the worst parents in the world. At the very end, they're in New York City. You would never let your daughter at age 7, 8, I don't know how old she is in that movie, he's supposed to be, just run off in a fucking toy store while you talk. You know what I mean? First of all, and I hate to say it, because nothing really happened at that party with him. You agree, right? He did nothing at that party, right?
Right. So, I mean, he did make out with Domino. Like, he kissed her, you know?
Okay. Right.
He kissed Domino.
But here's the thing.
And he kind of grinded up against her roommate, too.
See, I didn't see that scene, grinding against the roommate.
Yeah, that one I cut out. That in the original.
Hey, you're cutting all the good stuff out here, Marshall. Come on, buddy. Now, listen to this, though. I'm just going to play it with my wife. If I was a doctor and somebody called, hey, Jack Ryan died, he's 93, I got to go over there and take care of this. Okay, time to make the donuts. Where's my keys? Where's my car keys? Honey, give me some coffee, please. I got to go. I want to go. That stinks. Oh, fuck. Then it would have been like, first of all, like, she would have already known, like, oh, crap, Cindy's going to be, that lady's weird, man. I think she's got a thing for you. Yeah, I know. And the guy that she's dating, the history teacher guy? No, he's a math teacher. Yeah, I think he's gay. Anyway, all right, I'm going over there. Then she would have my wife would have called, and she goes, what's going on? I go, yeah, the daughter's freaking out, man. She's saying she loves me. She thinks she loves me. I got to get the fuck out of here. Hey, do me a favor. Call me in 30 seconds, and I got to get out of here. That's Dave Sheridan as the doctor. I wouldn't have said, no, it's, first of all, I'm the most uncaring guy in the world, so I would have been like, the dad's dead. Is there money here for me? Why the fuck am I there? Am I getting paid to be there for this thing, you know what I mean? So, anyway. Then all the other stuff happens, the hooker thing. Now, the hooker thing would be hard to tell my wife. Okay, I ran into a hooker. I went up in her room. We made out. That would be the hardest thing right there. The party part would have been like, what the fuck's up with this mask, Dave? I would have been like, you have no fucking idea. You were asleep last night, so I couldn't tell you. But guess what the fuck happened? What? Well, first of all, I got you're going to kill me. What? Tell me, you're going to kill me. What? I have a $250 cab bill. That would have been the first thing I had to tell my wife. Because that cost a lot of money to take a cab out of there. It would be harder for me to tell her about the cab bill then no, because he would be like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Yeah, Nick Nightingale. He's blindfolded. What? He gives me the password, Fidelio. I go out to this thing. This mansion is fucking crazy. There's naked chicks everywhere, and dudes are wearing masks, and they're satanic. So I'm freaking out. It's like, my God, are you fucking crazy? You could have been killed. No, I'm alive, honey. It's all right. Thank God you're not killed. But I got a $250 cab bill. You're fucking dead. That would have been what happened, right? But I mean, my wife would be laughing her ass off if I told her all that shit. She'd be like,
But then what the inevitable question was, the inevitable question is, why'd you go to the party?
No,
what was your reason? Why'd you go to the party?
I'll be like, honey, Nick Nightingale was playing blindfolded. Are you kidding me? That alone is
that's a lie. That's not why you went to the party. You went to the party because there were naked women.
Okay.
Then it gets into intention. That's the whole question that's raised. That's the question that's raised, though. Is thought the intention? Is it the same as cheating? If your body knows, and you know this as an actor, is if your body knows no difference between a dream or a thought or an imagination and reality, right?
I know, but
body reacts the same. So here's the thing. Is it cheating if you think it, if you imagine it, if you intend it? Is the intention the cheating?
Yeah, I don't even know, man. I don't care if my wife probably would be fine with me cheating if the girl was hot enough. You know what I'm saying? She gets
so you're telling me you're okay if your wife says, "Yeah, well, I went to this party with all these guys because I was hoping to get some good dick." And then you'd be like, "Oh man, that's amazing." But wait, what? How much did you spend on the cab? That's what you're really thinking? I mean, look, I get the humor. It's funny, but
he's too busy. He's too busy.
He's too busy. And that's the exact double standard.
Your wife
there's a Charlie Rose interview.
Twins. First of all, your wife has 2 twins and a little girl. Okay. Yeah. Put all that in, and there's a certain point where they're too tired. So women naturally are like, there's no way taking care of those 3 kids that your wife's going to have enough time to run out and do all that stuff. And you're like,
okay, now we're getting into this is exactly the kind of conversations that I think are beneficial for the film to raise, is what's inherently in a woman, what's inherently in a man. Are there gender roles, are there gender stereotypes? And because that's the whole point, is that Bill was blind to her sexuality. He's like, that's exactly what that scene is in the bedroom. That's the kernel of the film. It's the most relatable thing about the whole film is the scene they have after smoking a joint. And he's saying to her, no, he's like, no, I don't. He's like, I trust you, you know. And she's like, what? You don't think that I would do this? And then she's like, you have no clue what my desires are and what my sexuality is. But we assume because she's a mom and because she's trustworthy that she would never do something like that. She's a woman. Women don't think like that either.
Yeah, but they also don't go out to those parties and drink. Normal married couples are not going to go out to these parties. And then normal married couples don't smoke pot, dude. They really don't.
But
that's like,
I mean, this is an elite couple.
Do that, but, huh?
I mean, these are like, you know, I mean, these are one percenters. He's a very wealthy doctor to the wealthy. Obviously, he's doing house calls to very, very wealthy people. And they're calling him, he's on call to a select few of clients. Obviously, he's one of them.
And that's the other thing. You go to his thing, and he's got models like that he's treating. You know, like I know he's got an old guy with the leg, but in that thing it was like one of the first shots they show is pretty naked chick, and he's just checking her heart rate or whatever. You know what I mean? He's like, okay, that's good. Go ahead and get dressed now. It's like, goddamn,
right?
That's fine. So my thing is this: my wife would not have a problem if I told her Nick Nightingale told me this crazy story. You know, Nick the Dick, the crazy Nick, the guy from Portland now. Yeah, with all the kids. I saw him at this jazz blues guy. He's a piano player. Oh, my God. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I've seen your pictures. There's Throwback Thursdays on Facebook and Nick. Yeah, he's crazy, right?
You're speaking to a level of intimacy that this couple doesn't have. That's the whole point, is that there's already a fracture in the marriage, you know, that this level of intimacy goes all the way down to their sex lives and to their deep innermost. They don't have that. They don't have that intimacy.
I agree with Tom Cruise in the scene where he goes, I leave you alone in the party because I absolutely trust you. You know what I mean? So
right.
You know. So.
But obviously he thinks their marriage is that's the whole problem. If he thinks their marriage is in one place, And then, boom, she drops the bomb on him. Like, dude, we're not.
But I don't go to parties like that. I don't go to parties where guys date with girls, you know. I mean, like, that's just women. I don't know, man. I would think that guy was gay. I'd be like, that's me. The Australian guy dating with the chick, I'd be like, what's that dude thing? Oh, he's very charming. I go, he's fucking gay. He's like a Rupert Everett or whatever. I mean, like, the guy's dating. He's not smoking a cigarette, drinking shots of Jack, playing pool and darts in like the dude room. You know what I mean? Which is by the way, that's the hilarious thing is that's probably the gay thing because you're in a room full of guys. You know what I mean? The girls in a room full of girls. But a dude like mingling with a girl. I don't go to parties where guys mingle with girls. I go to party. If I ever go to a party, it's like all the wives are in one room. They're in the kitchen or whatever, like hanging around the cheese plate and chatting about, oh, look what I did here, and I got this, and have you seen that, and did you do this? And then the dudes are like watching a football game and playing foosball. You know what I mean? And they're kicking the kids around. But the other thing is the kids. They left their kids they let their daughters just go. That was on purpose because that is not a normal human being. Don't leave their daughter just running off while they talk about the thing that is not an issue. Because I didn't feel like it was an issue. Even when he finally told her, it was like all of a sudden she's crying and it was like, what are we going to do? It's like, what do you mean what are you going to do? Like, that's a hilarious story. I think that would be funny. You know what I mean? So, except for the people dying. But I wouldn't think that they would carry in. Women do hang on to stuff a little bit more, but I think the Toy Story.
It's difficult to even discuss the film without generalizing, you know, and saying, oh, well, this is what women do, this is what men do. And I think that's the whole thing that it's raising. That's the whole question that it's raising is, you know, do we really know what women do? Do we really know what men do? Is it safe to generalize like that? Is it safe for you to assume? That's what Bill did. Bill assumed.
Marshall, I'm not assuming nothing. I'm assuming I don't want to know. What I'm saying is, men are from women, women are from Mars, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It's not meant to know. It's like let them go in their room in the kitchen and talk their shit. And if they're going to talk about 12-inch dicks and dildos, and then we come back in and they're talking about, oh, I got this sale at Bed Bath & Beyond, and then I walk out and they're like, so tell me about that big black dick you have. That's fine. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. You know what I mean?
No, that's the necessity. That's the deception. The deception is necessary for both parties.
Exactly. I could care less. You know,
hey. You flip-flopped on that.
No, I didn't flip-flop. I'm saying that it's not my concern to know, and that's why my wife and I can laugh at that shit because we're both at that point where it's like, I don't need to know your shit, and you don't need to know my shit. You know what I mean? And it's like, right, it is what it is. So, but the thing is this, do you think the two guys in the toy store, do you think they were part of, you met
for sure.
Two guys in the back?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's one of my favorite things. Because if you also look at the toy, one of the first featured toys is called, like, the Magic Circle. And it's like, come on. That's intentional, obviously, because they didn't have any branded toys in there, so they had to make that whole set. You know, it's supposed to be like a Theo Schwartz, but they had to recreate the whole thing. So you got the Magic Circle, you got the two guys that look like they, you know, would have been the guys at the gate or would have been the guy following him down the street, and then, you know, and his daughter has red hair. Yeah.
The daughter goes off in that direction is one thing. She goes off almost like
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's
like the worst parents ever. Worst parents ever.
Obviously they are bad parents. I mean, when did the dad really ever see her? You know. But that's like, look, man. There's this whole theory about the wealthier you get, you know, does the quality of life just erode from under you because, you know, more wealth comes more responsibility and more time. Being wealthy doesn't mean you have more time. And most people don't say, oh, I'm going to stop building my wealth or earning money, I guess you could say, because wealth would engender time. Like, if I had wealth, I would have my money working for me, so I would have time to be around my kids, you know, and time to be a good parent and time to do all those things. But if I was so busy making money and I was a workaholic, a doctor working 60 to 80 hours a week, even though I was making more money, I don't have any time to spend it and enjoy it. and create a quality of life for myself. I think that's the deception that's an interesting point that comes out of this, is that, the depravity of the wealthy, that just because you have a lot more money doesn't mean, that, the saying, more money, more problems. And I think some of those, what it weighs on your soul, the true cost of wealth and money is people. You know what I mean?
Hey, let me ask you one question. And this is probably the page that this is the middle of the movie. This is like, oh shit, this is where it goes. The tip of the A, now it's moving. We know we're at the halfway point of the movie, where they call them out at that. Say, take off your mask. Then take off your clothes. I'm sorry, excuse me. Take off your clothes. Stop, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
If he took his clothes off, were they gonna just rape him and just have the way with him? Was he gonna be loved in? Was he gonna be a part of the gang at that point if he went for it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they would have done. Would he have been sacrificed the way the woman was sacrificed? I mean, that's what I think is very interesting about that. I don't know what they would have done. And then there's that argument that Ziegler had in the scene that obviously I cut, but it's like it was sort of all staged to scare the shit out of him. They weren't really going to do anything. They were just trying to be like, dude, you're here and you shouldn't be here. Get the fuck out of here. And by the way, Jedi style, nothing happened. But it could happen. So we got to scare the crap out of you. We got to do something to make you, completely emasculate you, completely embarrass you in front of all these, all these people that are in the club. You can't see their face, but we can see your face. We've got you by the balls, buddy. So I don't know. Would they have killed him? I don't know, man. Do they have the power to cover that up? I mean, obviously, look at what they did with the woman that sacrificed herself. And they're like, no, she OD'd, and that is one of the arguments for the Ziegler scene, is that he obfuscates the truth in such a way that you're like, they did it, they didn't do it. Oh, he's explaining to me, so I feel like they didn't do it, but I have this creepy feeling that they did it all. And now it's even more unclear to me.
Does he go to Ziegler's after he discovers she's dead in the unconscious?
Yeah. Ziegler calls him right after he is walking out of the morgue. So he goes, the creepy guy following him. He sees the article. He goes to the hospital. He flashes the badge. Hey, I'm doctor. I can get back there. He verifies that it's Mandy from the party, and it's the same girl. And then from the article, and then when he's walking out, Ziegler's assistant's calling. He's like, yeah, I can be over there in just a minute. So it's like they've been watching him. They know what he's doing. They know he found the girl. And now they got to lay down the hammer again. Like, you didn't get the warning at the gate. Now Ziegler's got to be like, dude, you got to stop. Because that's the argument, is if they were really going to do it, they would have killed him. So it's like, they don't want to kill him. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Does Ziegler admit that he's a part of it, or he's just like, what?
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah, Ziegler's a part of it, yeah.
What did he say?
He says, I was there, yeah.
Wow.
This is really good, man. Like, you're really putting me on my toes here to because I mean, if you remember, I cut this film almost 2 years ago now, and then and to get into it, I haven't had someone impress me like this. It was a really, really fun exercise for me to get back on my toes. Like, after this call, my obsessive personality, I'm gonna go back and listen to this interview and go over every question. You're like, gosh, that. Oh, why didn't I say that? Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, that, this, that, the other.
That's what Dave and Creech does.
A couple days ago. Yeah.
Taking his time, man. This is good.
Every guest goes back and listens to our shows, and then calls us back with I can't. Can you change it? I should have said this. Actually, nobody listens to our show. We don't even have listeners listening to our show. I don't even listen to our show. Creech, don't I? I don't listen to them, right?
No, I listen to them for the both of us because I'm the one editing it. Yeah.
He has to edit it. He has to edit it. And I go, how did it sound? How did it come out? And he's like, are you going to listen to it? I go, no. I'm not going to listen to my own show.
I know sometimes I've had to edit old episodes in because if Dave doesn't respond to something, I got to go to an older episode. Where does Dave say this? And just cut and paste it.
Right. We ought to just do that. Creech, we ought to just spend 20 minutes one day and just have me go, that's great. Awesome. Wow. Hey, I never thought of that.
Exactly.
What is that? How about this one? One more, yeah. One more should be this one, Creech. You got this. Mark this down, Creech, because you have this. Ready? Ready?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Creech?
Right?
So what do you think, Creech? Because that never happens in the show, as you can see.
I know. I was in here going, I want to know what freaking Creech thinks. He's like a monk back there, able to like not interject.
Guys.
I'm not one of those. You guys are way smarter than me. You got way more from that movie than I did. I watched it and like.
Yeah, what did you get from it?
Wait, didn't you watched it when you were 12 years old, though, right?
Well, no. Basically, what happened was I saw the trailer, and being a 12, 13-year-old, I was like, "Wait, this rated R for nudity? I've got to see this movie." And obviously, my mother and father wasn't going to take me to see it, so I had to wait till it came on like VHS. And then I didn't realize it was so long, and I was just like, "Oh, I can't get through this." Because I had really bad ADHD. I was like, nudity is not worth this. So I turned it off, and then didn't touch it for a while. The tape, speaking of course. And then, I watched the recut, and while I definitely enjoyed it. I guess it definitely was a lot faster paced than I remember. I didn't like. I'm not one of those people that watches the movies and goes like, I wonder if they kept this in the shot for this or not. Because I mean, I went to school and we did film as art, and that was like the worst probably grade I got was when they were like, okay, we need you to pick a film, find 3 or 4 scenes in it, and then tell us what you interpret, what you think they're thinking. And I used I think the movie Death Sentence, and I got like one thing out of it. And when I explained it to him, he's like, "No, like that's not even. Where did that even come from? That's like definitely not what they're doing." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm horrible at that." But I did enjoy the recut, and I would say that I would recommend it because, especially from what I remember of the original and just how the pacing was way more slower. This one's like, it's I guess. I don't want to call like the MTV generation, where everything's faster, but it does flow a lot better, and it still makes sense. I mean, I thought the ending was flat. I was just like, she says, basically that she wants to fuck, and then it just goes to the credits. I was like, wait, that's it? That was the only artistic thing that I thought. I was like, what? I don't know. I thought that felt a little flat, but yeah, no, I mean, I enjoyed it.
It's really interesting that you bring up the whole MTV generation thing too, because that's like a sea change moment for everybody. That it was like that's when things started being edited fast, and it was like the ADHD generation, and the ADD generation or whatever. So it's really interesting that you make that point. And that was one thing that I really wanted to avoid was that it was, and I'm glad you were able to parse that. It's like I didn't want it to feel like it was somehow that the cuts were out of place, and I tried not to do techniques that weren't repeated somewhere else in the film, because I wanted to keep that feel intact. I just wanted to, essentially what I wanted to do was keep the thread of Bill's narrative, because that was the problem is the whole movie hangs on this nagging image of him imagining the naval officer with his wife. And that's what drives him through this whole journey. And the problem is that he goes and he's about to go to this orgy and finally requite his jealousy. And then there's this whole scene and he can't pick out the costume, and then the daughter, and then this whole thing. And then you kind of almost forget, like, what's driving Bill. And I think that it honestly did a disservice to Cruise's performance in the film, because I think he's fantastic in it. I'm not a huge Cruise fan. I'm not a Cruise hater. And I appreciate his performances when they're good, but I particularly think this performance should be mentioned with his best performances. And I think the reason why it's not is because his through line emotional narrative, his driving force of his character gets so stretched thin, that 2 hours and 40 minutes on this one thing that he's imagining is driving him through this whole journey, and it starts to be like, that's what the movie's about, oh yeah, he's still jealous, oh, he's still imagining the naval officer, oh yeah, he's got to go, So, and that was something that I really wanted to do, was like, okay, what if we just focused on that in the narrative and kind of trimmed out a lot of these sort of extraneous kind of B-plots and characters that are enjoyable if you have time to sit and think about it and think about the nature of, like, all this other stuff,
Yeah, I mean, like, actually, and I just thought up one other thing that I misinterpreted. I don't think it was your editing. Like I said, I never got to that far in the movie when I originally watched it. But personally, at the very, right before the end, when he goes and finds the mask on the bed, I thought she was dead. I thought they had killed her, and that's why he broke down and started crying. But then when you were like that, you thought, or that she put there, and then obviously she starts moving, and I'm like, okay, well, this isn't a horror film. She's not a zombie. So she obviously wasn't dead, but like that first shot when she wasn't moving, I was like, did they kill her? And then put the mask there to let them know.
Right.
That was the other thing I thought.
That's a very interesting point. And it does look like that, because and maybe that's why he put that there. Maybe that's what why that foreshadowing is there, is you're like, oh wait, she's dead. I don't know. Maybe that's a really interesting thought. But I definitely also thought, like, oh, they put that mask there on his bed. So it's interesting in a movie like this where you sort of it starts to make you come up with your own theories.
Yeah, because I thought it was like the whole Godfather thing with like the horse, the horse head in the bed. Right. I was like,
yeah,
oh, they're not playing around.
That's one thing that I really do love about Kubrick films, is like he made sure to leave room for interpretation. Like he's gone on record to say, like, he does not like, he hates the whole conceptual thought. Yeah, the conversation we're having right now is like his worst nightmare. Like he doesn't want to talk about the meaning of his film or what it means. He hopes that you arrive at that meaning, and that, or he doesn't limit you from arriving at a meaning either, which is why I think what makes his film so sort of legendary, mythological, however you call it. So I think that adds to the lore, of his storytelling abilities.
Are you planning on re-editing any other films? Is there anything coming up that you're going to be re-editing?
It's been brought from, it's been requested of me now. Like, there's some, I've had people be like, oh, would you recut 2001? Would you recut Full Metal Jacket? And that's really fun, but already with the amount of, it's a really touchy thing. I almost feel adverse to do it because with Eyes Wide Shut, there's that mystery idea of if Kubrick had lived, and sort of left an ellipse on the film. The other ones, he did live through those. In fact, he recut The Shining. He recut 2001 already. So to go back and do that would be almost a direct criticism on it, as opposed to an imagining. So that's the main reason why I'm hesitant to do that to any of his other films. But if I were going to recut Kubrick films, those are the exact two that I would do. Is do 2001 and do excuse me. Why is my brain? I just had a brain fart. I would redo 2001 and I would redo Full Metal Jacket.
Creech.
Yes.
Let's thank him for being on the show.
Of course, yes. Thank you again, Marshall. It's always a pleasure. And any other films you got coming up, or shows, or recuts, you're more than welcome to come back on, and we'll chat about that.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Man, it was a super enjoyable podcast. This was a unique one because we were talking about someone else's work, obviously, that you reimagined, recut it, and quite frankly improved it because I was able to watch it, and I probably would not have giving the other one a second chance, knowing that I fell asleep about halfway through. So this was from the bottom of my heart. I'm glad now that I got to see the film, mainly because of your sort of snips that you did to it, and a very, very cool thing. And by the way, a great job on re-editing it, just in general, of like, it was pretty seamless. I didn't see something that was like, oh, the audio's messed up there, or I didn't know how, you know what I'm saying? Because I know we didn't really get into the technicalities of it, but it's not easy taking a film that's baked in with the sound and stuff to make sure that you can really make it all seamless, you know, and cut the stuff out, because the audio, you know, especially with the score and stuff, I'm sure there was areas that you had to kind of figure out some of those out, you know.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. I went to great lengths to make it seamless just for that reason, because in my head I kept thinking, like, boy, if somebody from the Kubrick estate watches this, or let's say Scorsese, who's a known fan of the film, or Christopher Nolan, who's also a big fan of the film, if they were to watch it, I wouldn't want them to stop watching it based on it there being a technical glitch, you know. So I went to great lengths to do my best. I'm not even a sound editor, so I really appreciate that, because that's actually, it took me longer to get it technically correct than it did for me to edit the film. So I really appreciate that, and also thank you so much for the compliments. You know, hearing that, at one hand I'm pleased, and on the other hand I'm humbled, because I don't know, it's a really weird thing to to hear a compliment like that. So I appreciate it, but wow, that's crazy.
All right. You know, you should ask your wife to compliment you more often then.
What's that?
I guess you should ask your wife to compliment you more often. You know, get a lot of compliments. You deserve compliments, Marshall. You deserve compliments.
She's very complimentary.
You're a good-looking guy. You're a really good editor. You're a very good actor. You're talented. Okay.
Thanks, man.
Go back and listen to those anytime you want, all right? Dave and Creech Show. Your name is Marshall. You're the best. Marshall, you're a good actor. Marshall,
The best.
You're a good father. Marshall, you're a great husband. Marshall, you're a good-looking guy. Marshall, we love you. Anytime. Creech, keep those in. And anyone else, if your name is Marshall, tune into the Dave and Creech Show anytime you want. This episode, if you need a lift up.
Exactly.
We're out of here.
All right, guys.
Great
Thanks
talking
so much.
to you, and hopefully our paths will cross again in the future.
Welcome back, guys. Well, that was the interview with Marshall Allman. It was good catching up with Marshall. Dave actually, after this interview, said he had some more things he wanted to say about the cut. Of course, you know, we just haven't been able to get together. As you can hear, it's just me. So on the next episode, if Dave feels he wants to still add in his 2 cents and the more opinions on the cut, then, you know, he'll be free to do so. But for now, that's going to wrap it up here. Once again, you've got a Friday the 13th episode to look forward to on Friday, which is the 13th, you know, obviously. And you've also got another episode next week. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I do know we are doing another Lexi interview, and it's going to be with Chosen Jacobs from pretty much one of the, if not the highest grossing horror movie of all time at this point, the remake and part 1 of Stephen King's It. So, alright guys, hope you have a great week. I will catch you all on Friday, and I'll see you next time.
Shut up and sit down.
Thank you for listening to the Dave and Creech Show. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Dave and CJ. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of Creech Creative Productions or any of its affiliates.